So here we are, around 4,000 meters, in the ridge of the Central Andes, in one of these beautiful páramos.
To be honest, that might be one of the best views I've ever had of a Tapakula.
Having a flower piercing in my hand. Oh wow, my god.
Coffee helmet crest, baby.
Yeah, got it.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Birdie Show. Please do, as always, remember to like this video, subscribe, leave a comment and check out our Patreon account in the description where you can help us in our mission to make birding more accessible to people around the world. And we also have to remember to thank our partners at Kowa Sporting Optics for helping us create this series of episodes in the Colombian Central Andes in Caldas department. Diego, we've had quite an adventure.
Absolutely. A little, sad to be finishing, but super happy, a few days in different elevational levels. Good friends, amazing birds, a few lifers, some cool things we've done, providing binoculars to people. So this has been a blast, absolute blast.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, I guess let's get going up into the high elevation.
Indeed.
Cheers.
Let's go higher.
Salud. We started off at about 2,600 meters. We got up to about 3,200 meters in the montane cloud forest. And then we moved up to elfin forest. So for those people at home watching who don't really know what elfin forest is, yeah, what is elfin forest?
I mean, pretty likely, as the name suggests, is where the forests get pretty stunted. And this is above, 3,000-ish meters. It varies, of course, in the Andes. And there is a characteristic, all the trees reduce their, growth, their size. Everything gets a little clumsier and a little denser. So all these habitats are basically catching up a lot of water, a lot of moisture. And this will happen even, farther and deeper on the páramo that is above it. It's kind of a regulator in between the higher páramos catching water and the forest, providing a lot of the diversity in these areas.
So we're at Hotel Termales de Ruiz. We're at about 3,500 meters in the Colombian Central Andes. So yeah, I can't wait to get into this thing later, but let's go and do some birding quickly and then gonna grab some coffee, get some breakfast. But this is one of the most iconic places in the higher areas of Manizales where you can come and see birds but also experience these hot springs.
Geothermal waters basically flow all over this area and make opportunities for tourism. A lot of these waters are actually piped down to Manizales, and a lot of hot springs are one of the main things on the economy down there. A lot of people would come here and they are looking for a wellness and relaxing experience, but they are permeated by the birds.
But these places make birding accessible to people who might not otherwise find a way into the world of birds. A good place for spark birds. And this place is really well known, as much as anything, for its hummingbird feeders. This is a place where you can come and see some of the trickiest high altitude Andean hummingbirds in Colombia, and you can see them, you can see them perched quite literally in your hand. There are some really quite difficult hummingbird species here that you can see with a cup of coffee, surrounded by these beautiful gardens, these natural elfin forest gardens, and then jump in the hot springs afterwards. It's kind of luxury birding.
I have to tailor-made, I've been doing birding tourism for 15 years, and you probably could see half of the hummingbirds that you can see nowadays in the feeders, and you were really working your ass all over this place and playing back and finding them. Nowadays it's so easy, all these hummingbirds, a lot of specialties and a lot of excitement and a lot of beautiful energy.
And one of the really spectacular hummingbirds that we've enjoyed while we've been here at Termales is the rainbow-bearded thornbill, and that's really interesting as well because during this trip in Caldas we've been looking at a lot of different hummingbird species, and we've been talking a lot about hummingbird bills and how they've evolved differently to adapt to different flowers.
And you can see, the rainbow-bearded has so tiny little straight, needle-like bill that sometimes even the flowers, it needs to push a little bit. So to save energy also, but to be able to get into the flowers, it hangs on most of the flowers and the leaves. You know, it's not flying all the time; it's saving energy.
Actually, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before.
A
But
lot
they
of the
do hang off the flowers.
Oh, absolutely. They all hang, so they save energy. So saving energy is like a big deal here. And of course, co-evolution of flowers and hummingbird builds is absolutely wonderful.
And we should say that the trails around this hotel as well, because the hummingbird feeders are kind of the focal point of the birding here at Termales de Ruiz. But actually, they have a beautiful network of trails down through the elfin forest where, I mean, for example, we had a really wonderful encounter there with tawny antpitter. Now, antpitters have been kind of a theme, at least in the last episode of this series, where we visited a lot of antpitter feeders. But tawny antpitter, which is the kind of high elevation antpitter of the Colombian Andes, is probably the least antpitterish antpitter, would be fair to say.
It's kind of a weird, you know, it's the outlier, high elevation. They come out in brogs, little perches. But then again, you know, the fact that they are friendlier showing in these areas because they are either habituated or fed in some of these places is like a must, is a plus, you know. It's a no-brainer to come and see these beasts.
Yeah, and a relatively easy antpitter to see as antpitters go, because a lot of antpitters require a lot of work, a lot of patience. These birds come and perch up on bushes, they come really close, they're pretty relaxed. You know, we're not just here hanging out, although this is a beautiful place to come and chill and relax and enjoy, but we've actually seen good birds. You know, some of the best Colombian high altitude hummingbirds seen, you know, with a glass of local rum, sitting in a beautiful thermal pool with a backdrop of mountains and elfin forest behind us. It's, as Diego likes to say, not too shabby.
Not too shabby indeed, not too shabby indeed. And again, one of those places that suits all kinds of birders. Yeah. Hardcore, medium and beginners. You can do whatever you want here and you'll always be watching birds, having fun and being super comfy.
But of course we couldn't just relax and enjoy the thermal pools and the hummingbird feeders. We still have that kind of...
We are that sort of different birder too.
Yeah,
you know?
we needed
like to chase stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We needed to get out there into the field. And also here, I mean, we're at 3,600 meters or so, we're in the elfin forest. But one of the habitats that we really wanted to explore and show people at home in this episode was the páramo. Maybe you can explain a little bit more about what the páramo is.
It's one of the most beautiful habitats, just let's start with that. And it's high elevation, below the rocky sandy area, you know, like volcanic, more sterile, higher areas, and the montane forest. It dwells in between Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Peru. So here we are, around 4,000 meters, you know, in the ridge of the Central Andes, in one of these beautiful páramos. You know, one of the main cool things that we're enjoying is seeing all these beautiful frailejones. Speletia plants, they are, you know, a composite, you know, in the composite family, Asteraceae. These leaves are totally pubescent. They are totally hairy. And you can see a lot of humidity just being trapped, you know, like all this cloudy, foggy environment stops at these plants and they drip. And this is how water is made in the páramos.
And the vast majority of frailejon species in the world, Speletias in the world,
Colombian. Several endemics, you know, a lot of micro-endemism to different ranges. So if you think, you know, that a páramo is also defined by having Speletias, there would only be páramos in Colombia, Venezuela, and Ecuador. And in that sense, you know, Colombia easily can have 80+% of the páramo extension of the world. And we have huge páramos in the Eastern Andes, in the Central Andes, and in the Western Andes. And if you think that we're here on the ridge of the Central Andes, you can think that these páramos are basically capturing, producing water, and letting it flow to the Cauca River Valley in the west and to the Magdalena River Valley on the east.
A huge percentage of Colombia's drinking water in major cities comes from these páramo ecosystems, which are also some of the most endangered ecosystems in the tropical Andes. And at this point we should mention our guest today on the Birder Show. We were birding with Laura. Maybe you can tell everyone a little bit more about who Laura is.
I mean, Laura is this local birder from Manizales, and she's been doing, you know, her job as a mountain guide in all this area of the snow peaks of some national parks and stuff. And she's been doing it for 10 years. I mean, she has this beautiful smile that she always puts when she sees birds.
Yeah, she has a really positive, joyful energy around
birds. Yeah, absolutely.
Yo amo este lugar, la verdad es que este ecosistema es maravilloso y pues estar con ustedes compartiendo este espacio lo hace. Estamos acá súper.
So one of the new birds we have for Mr. Bell here is the Paramo Tapakula. We are in pre-Paramo. Look at this habitat. Of course, some cattle ranching in the back, as usual, but all elfin forest. Very stunted, smaller, shorter vegetation, thicker leaves. So Paramo Tapakula is one of the species that lives in the Paramo. And it wasn't that way?
Sort of, it was. But it was kind of that way, but we did hear it before.
¿Qué tiene, Mónica?
Mónica, está ahí. Parce, está ahí en medio de las dos.
Sí,
¡Ah! Pucha. Lifer. A ver.
Lifer.
Chris, Lifer. Chris,
You don't see tapaculas all that well, you certainly don't film them or photograph them all that well. They get called here, people call them ratones, like mice. They kind of creep through the undergrowth, you get little shadows, little flashes, and filming them is very hard. And this Paramo Tapakula gave us the best perch I've ever seen really from a tapakula, perched in the open. To be honest, that might be one of the best views I've ever had of a tapakula as well, so it's a nice lifer tapakula to get. And one of the reasons that we wanted Laura to join us up in the Paramo was because she's doing some really great work with local children in the neighbourhoods around the Paramo ecosystem. We accompanied her today visiting a local school where she was handing out some of these great little pamphlets for the children of a local farmer.
I mean, you can see this is Las Aves de mi Vereda. Vereda would be my rural local area. And this is for kids with the most common birds, you know. And in the school nearby, we could see in one of the windows, one of these things, like, you know, being used.
Exactly, one of our missions here on the Birdie Show is to help make birding more accessible to people around the world, and Laura is a great example of somebody at a grassroots level who's doing that.
Estoy en un semillero que es el semillero de ornitología de la Universidad de Caldas, y allí a nosotros nos encanta el tema de la educación ambiental. Para nosotros, digamos que es una herramienta fundamental para llegarle a las personas. La verdad es que compartir, digámoslo así, y vivir la experiencia del páramo y la observación de aves en este ecosistema es maravilloso, y sobre todo pues que estábamos con Chris y con Diego, que son pues personas que son súper buena energía, además del conocimiento que tienen.
So we're in Laguna Negra, one of the hotspots at Los Nevados. But the cool thing today is being with Laura, because she has the keys of this gate and this reserve. So we're accessing the laguna. Normally you see it from a viewing point far away. Now we're gonna hike to the edge.
This is really fascinating. I love birding in this habitat, partly because a lot of the birds they're not the most colourful, but they really like to perch. They're really kind of vistoso, you say in Spanish, like they like to show off and perch on the top of plants.
You pass from the lower elevation cloud forest that is totally colourful, tanagers, hummingbirds, etc. And here is a little, you know, browner but cooler birds. I mean, a few representatives of the Furnaridae live in high elevations in the Colombian Andes. Look at that, I mean, Andean teal, 10 meters away, lovely male, huge chunky head.
Uy, ambos tiros, dos contra uno. Dos contra uno? Whoa.
Today we got to go right around the edge of the lake, and we got really amazing views of Andean duck and Andean teal.
To be honest, I've never got those Andean ducks so close, and Andean teals. I mean, they were together there, super close to us. Just, you know, displaying, hanging out, flirting. It was a pretty intense and cool experience. All surrounded by, you know, stout-billed cincloides and Andean teal spinetail.
Grass wren, all these, you know, brown jobs that, you know, live up there. They're, you know, absolutely cool. And after we've seen those ducks, we made the kind of traditional pilgrimage to visit Nubia in her little restaurant on the side of the road for some agua panela. So this is part of the joy of birding in these places as well, is that you don't just run around looking for birds. You do that as well, but you also stop at these great little roadside restaurants that have been open for years. Diego's been coming here for 15 years. You meet the local people, you get the traditional drinks like agua de panela. This is something, for people who don't know, like a hot kind of sugar cane drink with lemon added to it. Really good for altitude, for warming you up. These cheese breads that we're about to eat. We wanted to end this experience on a high, right? And we kind of knew when we were coming here up to the Paramo in Los Nevados that there was one bird that we couldn't really leave without seeing and filming and talking about. Because, well, it's related to the logo of our show, the bird that provides the song for the theme music of our show, the blue-bearded helmet crest. Here, the Buffy helmet crest. We couldn't leave here without seeing that bird.
Going to see one of the most beautiful, rarest high elevation hummingbirds that there is always an experience, you know.
So we went up to about 4,100 meters. We're riding the Paramo, surrounded by frailejones, espeletia, and this bird, they live in tricky places.
Allá,
Come on.
It's there. Buffy helmet crest. The combination of the bird adrenaline and the run and all of the adrenaline and everything is heart racing.
So there was a lot of cloud, there was a lot of drizzling rain. It wasn't the easiest place to get an eye on any birds. It wasn't the best day either. And the bird kind of gave us the runaround on it.
And eventually, you know, we got like one little glimpse there, one little glimpse here, and we could see this purple, amazing, shining beard. It just paid the whole effort.
It's a bird that from the back and from the side is kind of, you know, it blends in with its environment. It's a lot of, well, it's called the buffy helmet crest. There's a lot of mossy green, a lot of buffy colours, but then there's the crest and the beard.
Beard, the helmet crest used to be in Venezuela and Colombia. It was a split, and now we have 3 endemics, and Venezuela has its own endemic. So, I mean, totally welcome, you know. I felt that we accomplished something today. I mean, probably we need to set kind of a quest to see all the helmet crests.
If there's a birding quest that we could do in kind of northern Central America, it would be to get out to Venezuela, to Merida, and get the white-bearded helmet
There you
crest.
are.
I think that would probably make us some of the few people in the world of birding who would have all 4 helmet crests. There can't be many people.
I know probably a couple, but you know, we should be in that club.
Well, with the buffy helmet crest, our adventure in Caldas is coming to an end. We have to thank everybody throughout the 3 episodes who've supported us. And for this episode, we have to thank Termales de Ruiz for having us here, Tucurumbi Reserve, Laura, who joined us in the field. Man, this episode was an absolute pleasure. And again, of course, we have to say thank you to Kowa Sporting Optics, our partners for this series of episodes, who also allowed us to donate those binoculars to those local birders. That was a great experience.
I would say we are getting in trouble here because we are starting this kind of new wave or new era for the the birder show. We've been doing it on a personal level, but I think we have to keep making birding or helping make birding more accessible, funner for everyone. So like going around birding and donating binoculars, it doesn't sound too bad for me for the next episodes.
And of course, please at home do remember to like this video, comment, subscribe, check out our Patreon, and yeah, I mean, follow the Birder Show. Help make our dream of making birding more accessible to people around the world a reality.
Indeed. It's a pleasure actually doing it with you guys.
Well, until next time, mate. Cheers.